Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this unscheduled meeting of Council. Today to be held at 3 p.m. today on Thursday the 27th of May 2021. I'm not sure why unscheduled seems so crazy a word, because we used to call these special council meetings, but anyway, I must admit I prefer the old term. However, that being as it may, welcome to you all. And yes, this is obviously a special meeting to consider submissions in relating to the draft 2021-2022 draft budget. And I will just start the meeting in the usual way. If we can go. I haven't got my little cheat sheet. I forgot to bring it, so yes. So, yes. So, not yet. Stand by, Councillor Wood. Stand by. Don't get too anxious. Yes. So, council meeting information. Members of the public gallery should note that the council records and publishes council meetings via YouTube to enhance the accessibility of council meetings to the broader Wellington community. These recordings are also archived and may be published on council's website for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. At the appropriate time during the meeting, members of the gallery may address the council, at which time their image, comments or submissions will be recorded. Please could gallery visitors and councillors ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting. Next, I have the acknowledgement of country. Now, Councillor Wood. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai people, and pay respects to their elders, past and present. And the prayer. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. Thank you. Be seated. All right, so the first item, councillors' apologies. Mr Acting CEO. We've got Councillor Scott Rossetti. There's an apology. Thank you.
And also the CEO.
Oh, and
I'm sitting in for the CEO.
Oh, I thought you looked horribly like him. I was confused. Yes, and also our CEO, Mr David Morecambe. Both are away at a conference. The declaration of conflicts of interest. I don't believe we have any today. No, thank you. The next item is yours, Mr General Manager of Corporate Services, or Acting CEO. So we now have the receipt and consideration of submissions relating to the 2021-22 draft budget. I'd just like to thank the people who have taken the time to make a written submission. Several people are in the gallery who have chosen to come and speak to their submission. I would just like to make a general comment before we start. All the written submissions have been distributed to all councillors, and the councillors have read all the submissions. So each person in the gallery who would like to speak to their submission will have a period of 3 minutes to actually elaborate on the submission. I don't. There was a subtle message in what I just said. I don't really think you need to read your submission again, but if you'd just like to elaborate on any of the points you made in the written submission, this is an opportunity now. Now the list, we have a list of the people, I think, Mr Acting CEO, of who wants to...
Did all already come up?
Yes. So that's...
we can do that from the submissions.
So we have a...
Sea Spray Reserves Committee?
So the first group who indicated they'd like to speak are the Sea Spray Recreation Reserve Committee. Is that correct?
Reserves Committee.
Or just reserves?
That's the separate.
Well, we've got separate Well, I'm a bit confused because we've got several submissions from Sea Spray. So the first one I had was that the Sea Spray Reserve Committee did make a separate submission, so they don't want to speak to that. It's going to be the ratepayers that speak. In your hands. Yes? Ratepayers? Okay. Fine. The Sea Spray Ratepayers and Residents Association. Yes, please come forward and state your name, and of course you have 3 minutes. Thank you and welcome.
My name is Colleen Wheeler. I'm President of the Ratepayers Association and the Board Member of the Reserve Committee of Management. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Councillor Ripper on your appointment as a councillor. And then also on behalf of the Sea Spray community, we offer you all our sincere sympathy in the loss of a well-loved councillor, Malcolm Hall. He will be missed by the Wellington Shire and community. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you again about the Sea Spray Honeysuckle Pathway. We appreciate the transparency and details that you sent to us with building and costs projects. It has allowed the community to understand the complex planning of the pathway. The great Australian saint Mary MacKillop once said, "If you see a need, do something about it." The Sea Spray community, along with our close neighbours, the honeysuckles, have been advocating the need of this pathway for many years. We know what we need. We know how the connecting of two small towns that are developing and growing quickly have the need for the pathway. If you have read our submission, you will see our reasons for the pathway between the two towns. We understand and realise that urban pathways are also being considered, but we've never advocated for them. We know they will come in time. The pathway between the honeysuckles and Sea Spray is more important to our community, as shown by the petition that was presented in 2019 and the media attention that the pathway has had. The local community, visitors and tourists should have a safe place to walk, ride their bikes, wheel their prams and push wheelchairs. This past year we have had the greatest amount of caravan park bookings since opening, and the town has seen an influx of day visitors from all over Gippsland and beyond. Families are holidaying locally due to the COVID virus. We expect this to continue. We already see the benefits of a walking track that the Committee of Management put in place along the Foreshore Road, with many people walking, cycling from the caravan park to the surf club, then on to Merriman's Creek to swim. Shortly, the surf club will open the Waves Bistro, and the local shop will have new ownership and will be opened every day. Sea Spray will become the destination to come to. As the cost of the pathway is significant, it requires the full support of Council to bring all stakeholders together and continue with the good work so far achieved and bring this project to a successful conclusion in connecting our two towns. We, the community of Sea Spray and the honeysuckles, sincerely request that this proposal is given your full support for implementing to a successful conclusion. Thank you for the time that you've allowed me to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that submission. So now the next person I understand is present is a representative of the Yarraman District Adult Riding Club. Is that correct? Have we got someone to speak? Yes, come forward.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I thought I'd actually have questions for me, so I may be a little bit underprepared, but I'll run through just the bits that I wanted to add to our written submission.
Please do.
So basically, it's always been brought up with our project, I guess our membership numbers are lacking for the funding to be provided. So I wanted to add to my submission and just show in the last 48 hours I've put a survey out into our community and I've had over 150 people reply, 30 people want to join the Yarram Pony Club. I have 64 people wanting to join the Yarram Adult Riding Club, and I have another 22 people wanting to join the Camp Drafters Association. Now, in addition to that, we have more people wanting to use it for clinics, for running competitions. So we have the growth for this facility, and I really hope that you guys really take that into consideration, that our community needs this equestrian facility. So, that's
Thank you.
That's okay?
Thank you very much. Oh, yes. The next speaker that I'm aware would like to, or the next submission maker who would like to speak, I understand is a representative of the Yarram Aero Club. Thank you, Brian.
My name is Brian Lucas and I'm a member of the Yarram Aero Club. Thanks for the opportunity to speak in support of our submission for the funding in the draft budget 21-22. In our written submissions we outlined the reasons why this funding for the aerodrome is essential, and for not a large investment we can bring the Yarram Aerodrome up to a suitable standard for which the Wellington Shire and its ratepayers can be proud of. This aerodrome has untapped potential. The Yarram Aerodrome is unique in this shire in that it's accessible 7 days a week, 24 hours a day to all forms of aviation, from commercial to recreational. The uses of the aerodrome are far-reaching. People fly for sport, medical reasons, tourism, freight, agricultural services, firefighting. Even entertainers have flown in the past to Yarram to put on shows in Yarram. People also learn to fly at Yarram as a stepping stone to a career in aviation, and there's a huge shortage of commercial pilots happening, and we need to be able to keep contributing. The Yarram Aero Club works consistently to promote the aerodrome and the Yarram District's tourism potential, including that we're trying to promote air tours around Wilson's Promontory and down our coastline. And as an example of that, last week, two ex-international airline pilots from Lilydale flew into Yarram and borrowed a member's car to go into town for lunch. And then they commented on their return, what a great little town, and conveyed their intention to return with others to hire a minibus, stay the weekend and explore what the district has to offer, which is just a small example of what can be done through the airfield. It is vital that we have an investment in the multi-purpose terminal building to create and capitalise on the opportunities as they present themselves. For public to access, waiting for flights or people coming in from flights, educational requirements such as pilot training is a very important one, and we have a collaboration with the secondary college and using the secondary college's innovations of engaging disengaged students. And of course an area for the Yarram aviation history and club activities. The current building is well beyond its use-by date, and the original terminal building consists of an old stucco-clad building which is barely larger than a modern all-abilities toilet facility, and a small room housing the radio and comms room. The main room uses an old Atco hut on skids, which was put there by the Gippsland Ultralight Flyers back in the dark ages and is not up to standard expected of today. Public toilet facilities consist of a 60s style orange bricks toilet with one cistern and one hand basin, each in the men's and ladies' toilets. All these facilities fail badly by today's standards. The Aero Club is more than prepared to pitch in to achieve outcomes in the form of labour, skills and contacts under the supervision of a qualified builder to ensure this can all be achieved economically. On the East End development of our looking for more hangar spaces, this is very easy to sum up. The airfield cannot move forward without investing in more hangar spaces. Currently there is none. The ideal opportunity to utilise available land for lease to enable hangars to be constructed and facilitate future growth in a well-planned manner, not ad hoc, which will give, more importantly, will give a return to the investment, on investment to ratepayers. The aerodrome has a lot to offer, and as I've said before, it's gaining momentum every day. And another example of that is that the Aero Club have started with 11 members after reforming, and it, by the way, had been going since 1946, I think, thereabouts. That has now tripled with only 3 new members this week signing up. We are gaining momentum every day. Summing up, councillors and Shire personnel who would like more information are welcome to contact us, take a drive down to the aerodrome and have a tour of the facilities. And if weather is permitting and they're game enough, we're more than happy to take them for a fly over our coastline. And if we work together, we can unleash the untapped potential of the Yarram Aerodrome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thanks for your time. Now, the next speaker, I understand, will be speaking to our submissions number 8 and 9, and that's Mr. John Buxton, who's going to speak to his own submission and also one that was put in on behalf of the Victorian Farmers Federation. So, good afternoon, John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Shire councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to present today on behalf of Victorian Farmers Federation Gippsland branch. I'm not going to speak to my own submission from our business, and thank you for the assurance, Mr. Mayor, that you've all read it. It makes the case of rate shock pretty clear. In recent years, farmers have been hit with exponential increases in their rate bill from the Shire. I have collected a bit of a database from fellow farmers around the Shire, and I have numerous examples of rate increases ranging from 30 to 70% in 1 year. This is very hard for people to cope with from a budgeting point of view. We find that in our business we always have to revisit the budget and take money out of it's usually out of productive inputs, which is the most galling thing about it, or capital upgrades to the farm which are desperately needed. In addition to that, these exponential rate increases are driving significant ill feeling and disquiet in the farming community. And I can say from myself that we feel threatened by it. You know, the question you ask yourself is, do they want to rate us out of business? You know, when you get a bill that's up by 30% or, 70%, it really sits you back on your heels. And, it's not making the farming community feel like they're wanted or welcome. The current rating strategy, as you'll see from the graphs that have been presented in the VFF submission, show quite clearly that the percentage of the rating burden is being shifted onto the farming community. And on page 3 of our submission, the second submission we've put in, you can see how the rate burden paid by the farming sector's increased from 18% to 20% from the year 2019-20 to 2021. Is that trend going to continue is the question that nags all of us, and I've done some projections on what the bill would mean, what that would mean for us if it continued at the current rate, and in 5 years we could be looking at our rate bill double again. Now, I'm not going to go into all the arguments about what's wrong with the local government rating system. We all know it's broken and it needs to be repaired. But I'd just like to say that the Shire's greatest ally in the fight to get it changed is the VFF. No other organisation has done as much to try and get this issue addressed as we have. And we make the offer again to work with you to do whatever we can to address that situation. Now, today I've got some good news for you, and that is that there is a solution to the problem. The solution's become known as the Ararat model. Now, this model's also been adopted by the Mansfield Shire this year. Mr. Mayor, I happen to know the Mayor of the Ararat Shire. I spoke to her on the weekend and I asked her if she'd be prepared prepared to have a talk to you on the phone. And she said, yes, definitely. So I don't know if she's made the call yet, but I can get her phone number for you. And I think their experience would be well worth learning from. Now, the advantage of this model is that it allows you to ensure that and what it allows you to do is it allows you to apply the cap to each property sector in the Shire, and thereby avoiding the rate shock that happens if the valuation moves substantially for one sector as opposed to the other. The Ararat Shire managed to get a 1% reduction in the rating for everybody without impacting on their total rate revenue. And in our submission, on page 5 of our submission, we show that how if the Ararat model had been applied to Wellington, you would have been actually up $1 million in your total revenue without any sector having a thumping great big increase. Differential rates are there to be used. Differential rates are not a discount. Differential rates are allowed for under Section 161 of the Local Government Act. We have offered on numerous occasions to help the Shire model up and think through what models, methodology is available to you to spread the rate burden equitably across the Shire. I reiterate that offer to you again today. Now the farm assessments under this year's budget, 3,537 assessments. 10.6% of the rate assessments are being asked to pay 20.2% of the rate bill. Now that's not 3,500 farmers, but if we make an assumption that there's four rate assessments per farm, and I've got colleagues that have got many more than that, that's only 884 farm businesses. Now it's a bit hard to know how many farm businesses you've got out there. The Shire might have some more data on that than me, but it shows that the farmers have been asked to pick up huge amounts of money in the bill. All right, just in conclusion, I once again recommend the Ararat model to you and reiterate the offer to help the Shire think through the options that are available to you, and to do so would help remedy a large amount of the ill feeling and anger that's out there in the farming community towards the Shire. I'll be happy to take any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Buxton. I think this afternoon we're not proposing to, ask any questions, but we've certainly taken on board your submission, and of course, I also note that we met with you and a couple of other farmers and also a representative of the VFF 3 or 4 weeks ago.
14th of April.
Pardon?
It was the 14th of April.
14th, thank you, yes. And yes. And we certainly have also got the submission you made on that occasion, which has been distributed to all the councillors too. So thank you very much for your time. So that is the end of the speakers that I've got a note about, but I'd also invite anyone else who may be in the chamber who wanted to speak to one of the submissions, and given the time, I mean, if there's anyone else wants to speak generally on a submission, you're welcome to have 3 minutes. Certainly, sir, come forward. No. Yeah, so, I'm sorry, anyone who has spoken who wishes to leave, please feel free.
This is out of the ordinary bit, isn't it? You've got to listen, they've got to put a lot of work into this. We're the bottom of the run farmers. Okay? First time doing this stuff.
Yes, so could you please state your name for the record, and then you've got your 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you. My name's Sandra Grant, and this is my husband Mark Hunt beside me. come along to give me a bit of support. This is the first time that I'm speaking on behalf of our farm, and we're beef farmers in the Wellington Shire area, and we're also here to support John Buxton in the highlighting the area of how the rates are actually affecting our businesses in our farming sector. So I'd like to say that we're commercial beef farmers, and we've been farming locally here now for the last 9 years. Why are we here? Well, truthfully, we are here because the rate shock we have experienced over the past year has been devastating to us. Our worry is, what if it continues? Is there a future for viable farming in Gippsland for us? Our beef farms adjoin each other. Locks Road, Newry is approximately 50 hectares, and Blackfella Camp Road, yes, Blackfella Camp Road does exist. Boysdale is roughly 200 hectares. Blackfella Camp Road last year went up an increase of 60% in 1 year. This was quite a shock to my husband and I, and the Locks Road property actually went up 33% in 1 year. Why the increasing property valuations are a problem to us is that farmers in our case, as beef farmers we are, bought properties 10 years ago. We paid a fair price at the time, and we paid land rates without complaint till now. Now land rates have valued properties into a dollar bracket that would now price us out of the property market. Our properties turnover can never reflect the huge increases the values have put on them. What did we do about this in the last 12 months? Well, we tried to follow the objection process. We listened to the advice and combined properties as per the Valuer General's recommendation, only to find out that this made very little difference. We would have taken the matter further to VCAT, but whilst awaiting for the confirmation by the Valuer General's office, the 30-day VCAT time had lapsed, and we were no longer able to proceed with VCAT. The process for VCAT is also only available online, which would also make it quite difficult for farmers, because we're farmers. We're not, on a computer every day doing computer stuff. How does the extra money for the rates impact us? Well, we spend less locally on our groceries, our fuel, our fertilisers, our stock feeds, and to make up for the money, we find we have to pay for to actually pay for the rates. We have to do more work ourselves, whereas 2 years ago we had regular labour positions available on the farm. We now work longer days on our own to get our work done. We agree with the position of the VFF that the rates in general need to be overhauled, and the tools must be utilised to remove the burden from genuine farmers, which we are. The farming community cannot be expected to endure continued rate increases that result in less funds available for farmers to invest our businesses, to create economic activity and to provide local jobs. The rates and the property valuations. As you can see in the handout, our property valuations increased substantially. Unfortunately, our farm's capacity to generate more income has not increased in the same way. This is not a viable position for future farmers. With the Wellington Shire Council can apply different rating systems, as we've heard from John, and they should do so to achieve the best outcomes for our local community. We've included in our little brochure a letter from the agronomist at Elders in the Maffra shop he works, and he clearly says that in our case we have different types of soils, watercourses, roads that impact the potential for our income to ever grow. In conclusion, we have work to save for our retirement. We keep dipping into it to pay for the cost, to keep our farm operating at a sustainable level. Our story is not unique. The other farmers just can't make the time today to get here to tell their story, but we'd like to say that we're here on their behalf.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Say something.
Yes, absolutely.
I've just got something to say to you guys. Like the valuation on the farms, they're definitely going up through the roof, and I'm excited about that. If I sold them, I had some money. Really excited. So the rating system to match that, it's pretty hard, isn't it? Because if it goes for dollar to dollar, there's got to be somehow you can rate different sections, like genuine farmers against hobby farmers, interest rates are low, so people are paying silly prices for land, and that makes my land valuable. So just think about that maybe.
Okay, thank you very much. So is there anyone... Oh, yes, please come forward.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for your time. I'll keep mine short and sweet. The other guys have done a terrific job on speaking of the VFF submission. I think I'm just here...
Can you state for the record who you are?
Trent Anderson, sorry.
Yes, thanks, Trent.
I think I'm just here to help with some numbers, and I feel for the other guys. We actually had an 85% increase in a 12-month period on a rating notice. And that was on a large property, so it actually increased our rate bill by 20k in 1 year. As you can all appreciate, when someone walks out, or when you open up a letter in the mail and you've got to find another $20,000, that's fairly hard going. So here just to say that, and that money, we can't pass that cost on anywhere. We're not like the council who can up the rate bill to cover our bills. So that $20,000, that had to come out of what would have been spent on other investments on the farm, whether it be general running costs or into capital expenditure. So rate shocks like that really do make a difference to what we can spend in the community when we're being hit that hard. And it's been talked about with VFF. I really think a way to get around that, we can't... honestly, I think the valuing must be absolutely up the creek if you can have that much variance. It's revalued every 12 months. If we're seeing 85% changes, land values aren't changing 85% in 12 months. They're just not. So we've got a real issue with valuing that needs looked at, and if we can't value it correctly, then we need to be putting in like the tax averaging system where our land values are averaged over a 5-year period, and over that period we're only rated on that average value. So if we get a big year like this, it's offset by the other years where it hasn't risen at any sort of rate. And that, we can handle smaller increases, but you just can't handle rate shocks at that level. Some other issues is neighbouring farms are being, and I'm sure you all understand site value versus improved value. Neighbouring farms are being valued at different site values. So there's an absolute issue within the valuing where you can have two identical farms, same soil type, same water infrastructure, same road access, and there's differences of over 10% in the actual site value. So something somewhere needs to be done, and I believe it's the council's job to go back to wherever, to whoever's doing this, the valuer general, to actually get some of this stuff right, because it's fairly harsh when one landholder's been slugged an extra 10% when through the fence it's just being valued differently for absolutely no reason. We're not talking the capital improve, we're actually talking the starting point of the site value. So big issues there. Our rating bill is in the vicinity of 54,000. So as you can appreciate, when you've got big rises like that, that is money that, that's another worker, it's a lot of money that can flow through. And I actually can't think of many dollars we don't spend within the Wellington Shire. So it's money that would go around within the Wellington Shire. So yeah, thank you very much for the time, and thanks to the previous speakers that articulated it so well.
Thank you very much, Trent, for your time. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to a submission in particular or just in general? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much to all the people that have taken the time to come in and present to the council. The council certainly appreciates your interest in raising the various issues and matters with the council. I think it's now appropriate to get a councillor to move the recommendation in the business paper. Do I have a... Thank you, Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that Council receive and consider the submissions relating to the 2021-2022 draft budget.
Thank you, and that's seconded by Councillor Boy. Is there any opposition to that recommendation? No? I'll declare it carried. I don't think there's probably anyone that needs to speak to it, but I'm not going to sort of impose that upon you. Anyone? No? Everyone happy? Because obviously, thank you. The council will now give further consideration to the submissions to its total budget, and we will be bringing the budget back to the
On the 15th of June.
15th of June for final consideration. So thank you all again for your time. I think that actually brings the business of the special or unscheduled meeting to a close, and therefore I will declare the meeting closed at 3:35 p.m. Thank you.